Greetings all, welcome to WoW-To Section 4. In 4 we're going to discuss mostly professions, and there tends to be quite a bit of data in professions, and I know I told you guys in the previous thing that I was going to go to the capital city, but I decided to stop off here in Bloodhoof first to kind of try to make a point about this. Now, when you're first just starting out a character, it doesn't matter whether you're Tauren or Draenei or a Night Elf or Blood Elf or whatever. Usually, you will leave, let's look at the map, you will leave your starting area, like here, Tauren start in Red Cloud Mesa, and I followed this road to go out to Bloodhoof Village. This is the very first village that you come to outside of your starting area. Now, the capital for the Tauren is actually further up here, Thunder Bluff, in an area that I haven't been to yet, so that's why it hasn't been revealed. But this is where I came up to. Now, this is usually where you will run to your first trainers, and they usually are somewhat themed to whatever your race has a tendency towards. For example, the Tauren tend to be hunters. They're very, tribal, nomadic species, and they are hunters. And if you come back here, you see we have a skinning trainer and a leatherworking trainer. Now, skinning is a gathering profession. That's, basically where you gather whatever materials are necessary for a given production profession, and leatherworking is that production profession. They tend to go together a lot of times. Now, you don't have to do it that way. You can do it several different ways if you want to. You can take two gathering professions like skinning and mining, or you can take two production professions like tailoring and leatherworking if you want to. Now, over here there's this gentleman way back here, and he is a fishing trainer. Now, remember, if you look back at your professions tab, you can get your two main professions, like you get like skinning and leatherworking, but you can also get fishing. So you could train that here if you wanted to. And if you look over here in the inn, and it's also a good time to point out that if you look at my experience bar, it's purple. And that means that I am out of rest XP. But when you go in here, you see this has now become Z's, which indicates that I am resting. I am in a very restful place. And eventually, if I stay in here long enough, this will turn blue. And that means that I have stored up enough rest XP that I will be getting 200% of experience from killing monsters and stuff. Now, this young lady is the first aid trainer. Now, that is, obviously, on your professions tab right down here. So you could get first aid and fishing from this particular village. Now, again, it probably varies depending on where you go and what class and what race you're playing. Now, I'm going to go ahead and cut forward to where I'm actually in Thunder Bluff and show you some of the other professions that are available from there. Okie dokie, here we are. Welcome to Thunder Bluff. This is the Tauren capital city. If you wind up playing a Tauren or anybody on the Horde side, there's a very good chance that you will wind up coming here at some point. Now, on the map, this is, anytime you're in a capital city and you hit the M key or click on the map button, it will usually show you a map of the entire capital city. Now, if you move your mouse cursor out far enough, you'll see where it'll say the name of whatever the surrounding zone is. You can click on that and it will zoom out to the surrounding area. As you can see, we started in Red Cloud Mesa and followed this road up to Bloodhoof, where we saw the skinning trainers and leatherworking trainers, the fishing and first aid trainers. There was also a cooking trainer there, but I didn't point him out to you because honestly I'm trying to save time on these videos. Now, if you get to some place like Thunder Bluff, I mean, it's a big place. There are bigger capital cities than Thunder Bluff, but sometimes they can be very, very confusing when you first get here. How do you know where to find anything? Well, generally, one of the best things to do is to ask a guard. And I mean that literally, just go over and, like, let's say, for example, this particular guard, you will know them because they will have this little scroll. Whenever you bring your mouse cursor over them, it changes to this scroll. So you right-click on them, and they do whatever their default action is, which in this case is to help you find stuff. You could find the bank, the Windrider Master, the mailbox, auction house, or in this case, we're looking for, say, for example, a profession trainer. Well, now, what kind of profession? And there's a lot of different kinds of professions. You could be looking for a skinning trainer, for example. So let's say, fine, I'm looking for a skinning trainer. Now, this particular guard tells you where to find them and marks on your mini-map where to go to find them. Now, you can also look at your main map and it shows you exactly where that person is. And all you have to do is head off that direction, find them, and you're good to go. That's when you can start training up. Now, one of the other things I wanted to point out to you is, since there's a big puddle of water right here, if you happen to hit the fishing trainer, you can fish in any area of water that's deep enough. You can also swim. But what happens if you swim to the bottom and now, okay, well, you're slowly running out of breath as this breath bar continues to descend. And if you stay down here too long, you will drown. Now, how do you move up? Well, if you were standing on land, if you wanted to move up, you would just hit the space bar to jump. As it happens, that's exactly what you can do. You can hit space bar and you will slowly move up. You can also do what we were doing before with mouse steering, where you hold down the right mouse button, aim up, and move in that direction, and now you're back to the surface. But if you wanted to go down, you could also mouse drive that way. Or if you want to go down using the keyboard, you use the X button. So it's spacebar to go up and X to go down. That's how you swim and keep yourself from drowning, because that can be very, very embarrassing if you wind up doing that. There's also, in every capital city, there is a bank, and there are usually big signs like this big totemic sign here that indicates that that is the Thunderbluff Bank. There are some bankers in that little hut over there. There is also a guild vault. Now, if you were in a guild, you would be able to pool all of your resources with your guild mates in a guild vault like that. Let's see, what else can I tell you about? Because there is, some other stuff. Well, then there's people that will become godsends for you. Bag vendors. Oh, wow. Man, because, remember I said you're going to run out of bag space? I mean, my bag's almost half full and I've barely been doing anything. Granted, it's all food, but still, bag vendors, right click on them, they open their inventory, and you have several different kinds of bags that you can get. 6-slot bags, 8-slot bags, 10 slots, 12 slots. If you want to get bigger bags than that, you have to go to more advanced areas or go to the auction house, and almost every capital city has one of those as well. In the case of Thunder Bluff, they're right over here, because there's one of the auctioneers right there, but I will explain auction houses later on. Suffice to say that there are a bunch of different professions that you can choose. We saw when you looked at it, when we were asking the guard what where to find the skinning trainer, and since we haven't gone over there, that flag will stay there until such time as we either pick something else to look for, or we actually go over there. Once you get within a certain range, that flag will disappear. But I mean, you can see we've got alchemy, blacksmithing, cooking is one of the everyman skills, so that doesn't quite count towards your professions. There's enchanting, herbalism, inscription, leatherworking, mining, skinning, tailoring. All of those are professions that you can learn. It also doesn't cover jewel crafting because, like I said before, they're not really jewelers, so you can't really learn that here in Thunder Bluff. But what are the differences between the two different things? Because I've mentioned that there are gathering skills and there are production skills. Well, something like herbalism or mining or skinning are your gathering skills. They are designed to gather materials such as plants, leather, and either stone or metal. And then you use your other professions, your production professions, like alchemy, blacksmithing, engineering, stuff like that, to be able to further refine those materials that you've gathered and put them to use, making things like if you wanted to do jewel crafting, obviously you'd have to go somewhere else to learn it, but you could learn how to make jewel fittings for rings or necklaces or whatever. If you took blacksmithing, you'd learn how to take the raw ore and smelt it down into bars. That would be the refinement portion. Then you could also use those to make armor or weapons or what have you. Leatherworking, you eventually learn to make the skin into leather and make the leather into leather gloves or a leather vest or what have you. Tailoring and skinning are the two situations where your materials come to you, because when you take down any kind of a beast, you will almost certainly be able to skin it and produce leather from that. With tailoring, anytime you take down a humanoid character, there's a chance that they're going to drop some kind of scraps of cloth, be it linen, wool, silk, what have you. As you progress with harder and harder monsters, they produce more and more advanced cloths that you can work with. So those are the two cases where your materials tend to come to you. Everything else, you pretty much have to go looking for it. You have to either go pick the plants with herbalism or go and mine the stone or metal with mining. So that's pretty much how all these things work. As you pick them. You can do it any way you want. Like I said, you can either get 2 production skills and just buy all of your materials off of the auction house, or you can get 2 gathering skills and just sell everything in the auction house. It actually balances out quite nicely depending on how you want to do it. A lot of people tend to take 2 gathering skills at the beginning when they're very low level and it's hard to make money, and they do that to make money so they can continue to train themselves up. And once they reach the end game stuff, you know, level 80, 85, around in there, then they start, they forget, they completely cancel out and purge the 2 gathering professions, and they take 2 production professions, because you can make money hand over fist once you get up to end game stuff. And then you just buy everything you need off of the auction house and use your 2 production skills to make things for other people. So that's basically how production or professions work, and they're really pretty easy once you get started on them. It takes a little bit of time to get used to figuring out what kinds of plants grow where. If you take herbalism, you know, where do you go to find stuff to mine? Well, they're always in the mountains, you know, on hillsides and stuff. Where do you go to find animal skins? Well, they're usually found on animals. So those are usually pretty easy to find, and like I said, they tend to come to you. Which brings up something I didn't discuss before, and that is aggro radius. I should have covered that in the last segment when we were talking about, you know, it kind of interacting with the game world. But the problem is that when you're in a starting zone, all the creatures are neutral. They all have yellow name tags. They don't automatically attack you, like some of the ones around here do. If you are a lower level than a given monster, you have this circle of, it's called your aggro radius or your aggression radius, and the greater the distance between your level and the level of the monsters around you, the bigger that circle becomes. For example, if you are a level 5 character like I am, and you go out around a bunch of level 10 characters, your aggro radius is going to be huge, and so you're going to have to cut further around, give them a much wider berth and stay farther away from them than something that's the same level as you are. Or once you get, you know, way beyond them, like if there's like a level 80 character running around out here, he can practically run through some of the monsters out there and they still won't aggro on them, because the aggro radius is so tight around that character that it never triggers. So you got to be careful if you're in a high level area and you're a low level character, because everything out there is going to aggro on you and it's going to come after you. So be careful out there, right? Now, in the next segment, we're going to talk about guilds. I mentioned that there's a guild vault over there, and so I'll talk to you about what kind of guilds there are, although there's all kinds, and that would take way too long to explain, but I'll go over some general ideas. And then what kind of things you can do when you're in a guild, and we'll discuss that in the next segment.